However, there have been a lot of questions that have got from the members stating on e-invoice itself and which went live, and there is also a question that had come up on ITC availment. We thought it's worth we should do the session on ITC again. Mostly by now, GST law is settled, especially on the supply side, with the e-invoice being there on a real-time basis. Data is transported from your accounting application through IRP to the GSTN portal. Beginning of the month, when you log into your GSTR1, all your B2B data is auto-populated along with the debit note, credit notes. All one has to do is update either the exempt section in table 8 or B2C supplies in table 7 and submit the GSTR1. While filing of 3B availment of input tax credit is not that easy, that simple and straightforward. Hence, it needs even more detailed verification, reconciliation, accounting. Because it is auto-populated from 2B, there are even more important challenges that the credits that are ineligible lying there, eligible missing there, and appearing after some time with credit notes, debit notes. How do we deal with that is the objective of today's session. I've been biggest advisor of use of technology. At the end, we will also have a demo of how your purchase register can be reconciled with the data which is appearing in the portal, and what are the various actions one needs to take, which we are going to see as a part of the reconciliation. Not sure how many of you are aware about the recent implementation of Rule 88D about the mismatch between credits in 3B and 2B, wherein we would be asked to report in DRC 01C an explanation which we are going to see today. With me, I have my colleague Ashika, who would be walking us through the various parts of today's webinar, and I'm also here to explain. Broadly, we are going to cover a quick recap of the legal provisions of the input tax credit. We will be looking at the changes that have come, the notifications which are making restriction on utilization of input tax credit. What are the various reconciliations and reporting? How do we report it in GSTR 3B? That's equally important because there are specific heads mentioned in GSTR 3B to avail the credit. If there is a wrong reporting, how does it impact? That section is more important. And the new adjudication process if there are errors in the reporting. Lastly, how do we use technology and mitigate these challenges would be dealt by my colleague Bharati. This is the overview of today's section, and I request Ashika to start the session. Feel free to ask your questions, put your questions in the chat. We will take up those questions appropriately at various intervals. Ashika, over to you.
I hope screen is visible to all.
Yeah.
So before jumping into the facts, what about that form adjudication litigation can happen on ITC? Let us quickly recap about the legal provision which is prevailing. Now you would be thinking every time whenever anybody start with ITC, they start with first basic provision, and it's more than 6 years, still we are referring to it. The reason being that under input tax credits, the burden of proof is on the SSE. Means you need to prove that ITC availed by you is eligible ITC and is in compliance with GST law. Unlike other than ITC, the burden of proof is on the officer. They have to say that you done the taxability wrong, or you calculated the wrong rate or wrong valuation. The burden of proof that I have or as an SSE has done something wrong other than ITC is on the department, on the officer. But under GST for input tax credit, it is on the SSE to prove that ITC availed by them is eligible. So for that, it's very important that we know what are the conditions which are required for the purpose of availment of ITC. First thing is, who is eligible for ITC? As we all know, only a registered person can claim input tax credit. So you should be a registered person, and the ITC, that is the inward expense, the expenses which you are incurring either on goods or services or both, whatever you are incurring on that expenses, we pay a GST amount to our supplier. Those expenses should be used for in the course of furtherance of business. The first thing, the first part for eligibility to determine is you should be a registered person. Then only you will be entitled to input tax credit, and the expenses which has been incurred is incurred for the purpose of business. If all these conditions are satisfied, then only you will be eligible to claim the ITC. Unlike previously, when the GST was introduced, it came with the 3 returns, 1, 2, and 3, which all now has been gone. Now there is only GSTR 1, GSTR 2A and 2B, and GSTR 3B. So earlier there was a matching concept and ITC was provisionally allowed. Now all this they have done away. Now whatever you claim in your GSTR 3B, that become your ITC and you are eligible for the same. For availment of input tax credit, the another important point is that, as we said, that if you are eligible and you have reported in GSTR 3B, then only availment of ITC happened. But there may be a case where even though you have availed ITC in compliance with section 16, means you are in receipt of goods or services, you are in possession of tax invoice, you have made payment to your supplier for the goods or service procured with GST to them, but your supplier didn't pay the tax to the government. Because one of the condition is to ensure that tax has been paid on the goods or service procured. If that doesn't happen, now it is on the recipient side to ensure that has happened. If doesn't happen, the department or government is blocking that ITC. So what you can do is, now they have come up with the rule 37A, where they prescribe that if you will be noticing in your GSTR 2A, sorry, in GSTR 2B, when you download, there is a separate column is now coming. Earlier, we used to see GSTR 1 filing, date of filing and filing status. Now we are also able to view GSTR 3B date of filing. So from there, you will come to know whether your supplier has filed your GSTR 3B or not. If they have filed, it has to be assumed, because there is no surety that filing of 3B means payment of tax. But as 3B is shown as filed, it is assumed that my supplier has paid the tax to the government. That is the only base we have to satisfy that in GSTR 2B, which is downloaded as of now, in that 3B filing date, it is showing. If it is showing, we have to assume that tax has been paid by the supplier. So where tax has not been paid by supplier, what would be happened is still in rule 37A. So suppose your supplier has filed your 3B, but it has filed belatedly, but they have given a cutoff date. Even though 3B have been filed belatedly, but it has been filed before 30th September of subsequent financial year, as we are standing in 23-24. So just for 22-23, if there is showing 3B filing date is not showing, but Now, as the time is there, you can check from your GSTR 2A, who are the suppliers whose 3B is showing filing status as no. Based on that, you can follow up with your supplier because their non-compliance will result in disallowance of ITC to you, even though you have made full payment to your supplier. So if they file before 30th September, then there will be no requirement to reverse the ITC. So if they comply before 30th September, then the ITC which you have availed in 22-23 will still be valid and there will be no requirement of further reversals. However, if they didn't file, if they don't file that ITC, then you are required to reverse the ITC. But in this case, they are not saying that ITC will lapse or it will be foregone. You can't avail. You can re-avail that ITC when your supplier filed the GSTR 3B. So it's like payment made to the supplier within 180 days. With that, they have linked payment of taxes by the supplier. So if your supplier didn't file before 30th September, you have to reverse the ITC. Once he filed, then you can reclaim the ITC. Though reclaimment of ITC is allowed, but interest will come into the picture. You have to pay the interest from the date of availment till the date of reversal. You have to pay the interest, and that will be the cost to the company. Now, how this reporting work? Where your supplier is in compliance or they have filed before 30th September of 2023, then there is no issue. The ITC which you have availed, you will show in 4A5. But where your supplier didn't file their GSTR 3B, then you are required to reverse. So where you will reverse? You will reverse it 4B2 because that is deal with temporary reversal. 4B1 is a permanent reversal. At the time of re-availment, when you are availing based on your 3B been filed by your supplier, at that time, because 4A5 is auto-populated based on GSTR 2B. So when it is auto-populating, it will not auto-populate based on GSTR 3B filing. It auto-populate based on GSTR 1 filing of the supplier. So 1 have been filed, but 3B is not filed. So when the 4A5 ITC you will be seeing in that non-payment of taxes by supplier of 3 or 3B non-compliance will not be showing over there. So in 4A5, you will add that amount for reclaim and same you will show in 4D1 because 4D1 is to show the ITC of previous period claim in current month. So 4A5 also you will add, 4D1 also you will show. This will work as a RICO for the department to make sure that by the amount of your ITC claim is more than auto-populated GSTR 2B. Because from 4D1, they will come to know you are saying some previous period ITC you are reclaiming. Though the reason for that, you have to maintain the detailed working of it.
Just one point I would like to add here is this is a newly enacted provision, both Rule 37A and the Section 41, this which got amended in the previous finance bill. Now, though Section 16 is giving everyone a condition to avail the input tax credit, and which I said irrespective of no correlation with the input and output. Now it is essential that the this credit availment is subject to Section 41 and Rule 37A. In fact, someone was asking that how can I see this status? So I've pasted the link. Suppose you log into the GST Zen, you can click on that link and copy paste all the vendors. You will be able to see their filing status. Now, what is very important is we are here on 13th September. As Ashika is showing on the slide, the suppliers should file their GSTR 3B by 30th September. So here we are talking about a situation where they have filed GSTR 1 well within the time. That line item was visible in your GSTR 2B. However, he has not discharged the taxes by way of filing of 3B. So it's very important that you got to check all your vendors the filing status as on 31st March. Why am I saying March? Because if a return is filed for March, it is deemed all the historical returns would have also got filed. Because you cannot file a subsequent return if the previous return is pending. This exercise, you have to do it on or before 30th September. And if they are not filing, in the next return, you have to reverse the input tax credit that you have availed. This reversal should be happening in your 4B2, as Ashika said, because that is temporary reversal. So it is also equally important that which table, which section you are reversing also important. Just because I can reverse anywhere doesn't mean that I reverse in any head. At the end, we also see that how department is tracking of reavailment of the reversal credit. So it's very important that what you are seeing on the screen, you make note of these tables, verify your vendor credits. Yes, Ashika, please go ahead.
With this, other conditions is that these are the main conditions which need to be satisfied before availing any ITC. 16.1, when we discussed, we said who is eligible to claim ITC. 16.2 give the condition in order to avail the ITC. As we said that you should be in possession of the tax invoice. The invoice details on the basis of which you are going to claim the ITC should be reflecting in your GSTR 2B. You must have received the goods or services or both. ITC should not be restricted under section 38. This is the new section which has recently came. That also we will discuss in our next slide. Tax charge in respect of such supply have been actually paid to the government. This is what we discussed in our previous slide. Now, the thing is that tax has been paid to a government. It's not possible for recipient to check. Being having multiple supplier, it's not possible for them to go and check each and every time whether my supplier GSTR1 data furnish and GSTR 3B data furnish is matching or not. And no supplier obviously will be giving you that detail that my 1 or 3B are matching or these are my parties. Nobody will disclose this transaction. So to match this problem or to look into this thing is where the GSTR 2B come into picture, where you get the details whether your 3B supplier has filed GSTR 3B or not. From that only you can be assume that tax has been paid. Another thing is he has furnished the return. Over here, he has furnished the return means recipient. Being a recipient of input tax credit, being an SSE, you have to make sure you file your GSTR 3B because GSTR 3B is a way to claim ITC. Until and unless detail of any input tax credit is furnished in 3B, same will not be get credited into electronic credit ledger and same will not be allowed to be adjusted with your outward tax liability. So you have to make sure whatever the expenses you incurred are properly reflecting in your GSTR 2B, and based on the eligibility, you have to claim those ITC in your GSTR 3B. Unless and until it is claimed in 3B, no credit will be allowed by the department. The restriction under section 38, which we said that we'll take in the next slide, is these are the restriction which has been imposed. As of now, all are not make operational because in GSTR 2B, the data which you are getting, there is no restriction as of now you will be seeing, but these are going to be implemented. If a supplier is a newly registered, they are going to make restriction of those credit, but still now nothing has been prescribed how it will be made or who will be considered. Where supplier filed GSTR 1 but 3B not filed, this has been made operational. Supplier liability in GSTR 1 more than GSTR 3B. As of now, nothing is there to check all this thing. ITC in GSTR 3B more than GSTR 2B. substantial tax discharged through ITC, any other class prescribed by government. So all these 6 will be basically restricted by way of GSTR 2B, but all of them are still not operational. Only supplier filed GSTR 1 but 3B not filed is the data which is available to view. But it is, as of now, the government portal is not blocking the same or not considering it as a restricted ITC. SSC themselves have to make sure they comply with all this thing. Basic document for availment. As we say, we need tax invoice in order to avail. In case of reverse charge, where as a recipient, you are liable to pay tax and your supplier will not be collecting tax from it. In those cases, you have to raise self-tax invoice. Now, the self-tax invoice, which is raised by you, is a document for availment of ITC under RCM. But just because you raise the self-tax invoice on yourself, it doesn't mean you will become eligible. You have to make sure you pay the tax for the RCM also. So in GSTR 3B, we show in table 3.1D that inward supply liable to RCM. Over there, you have to discharge your tax liability, and as a document, you have to also maintain self-tax invoice. Based on both the condition fulfillment, you will be eligible for ITC. Debit note issued by supplier. Now, there may be a case, there may be change in tax rate or there may be change in value, due to which supplier might raise a debit note upon you. So that debit note, whichever date it raised, you will be eligible for ITC. Now, the question which may arise is, tax invoice may relate to different period, debit note may relate to different period, which is raised against original invoice. Just for example, like suppose 21-22 tax invoice relate. Now the last day to avail the ITC was 30th November. Now debit note has been raised in suppose May 22. So tax invoice relate to 21-22. Debit note relate to May 22. So you may be, let us take not May 22, let us take December 22. Debit note relate to December 22. Now, based on original invoice, you may say that my time to avail the ITC got lapsed by 30th November 2022. So can I avail the ITC on debit note? The answer will be yes, you can avail, because debit note will have its own time limit to avail the ITC. That is, it will have a time till 30th November 2023 to avail it. So irrespective of the invoice date, debit note will have its own time limit, and accordingly, you can avail the ITC on the same. In case of import of goods, ITC availment is based on bill of entry. Revised invoice come into the case where there is a delay registration. So I will not go into much of them. Document issued by ISD, input service distributor. So on that basis, ITC will be allowed. Another important condition is, one we learn is first that there should be a payment of tax by the supplier. Further, there should be a payment to supplier by the recipient. So GST also imposes a condition that you should make a payment to your supplier within 180 days. So where you do not make the payment within 180 days, then you are required to reverse the ITC, which is availed by you based on the invoice date or based on the reflection in GSTR 2B, auto population. If you have availed that ITC and you have not made the payment to your supplier within 180 days, then you are required to reverse that ITC. Like we discussed for payment of tax, when you are availing the ITC, you would be showing in 4A5. When you are reversing the ITC, you will be showing in 4B2. And when you are reclaiming the ITC, because this is similar, this works similarly to payment of tax by the supplier. So when you make the payment to your vendor, you will be eligible for the ITC and you can reclaim it. So when you are reclaiming, again, same will be included in 4A5 and it will be reported in 4D1. Interest, obviously in this case also interest will be applicable. Interest will be applicable from date of availment of ITC till the date of reversal. that will be the cost you have to bear. And another important thing, if you will notice that we are every time referring to you are relevant of GSTR 3B tables, because at the end, we are going to discuss about the new facility which the government has launched on the government portal is opening balance in electronic credit and reversal. So that's why we are discussing this table, so that you can understand which table or which row of it you have to show in that opening balance. Other conditions for claiming of ITC is whenever you purchase any capital goods, obviously on that also tax is suffered. Whatever the tax over there suffered is also eligible for ITC subject to section 17(5) block credit. So assuming you are eligible for ITC, so in that case, you can't take two benefit. One, you can't capitalize the ITC and claim the, can't capitalize the GST component and claim depreciation on the same. Either you claim depreciation or you claim ITC. So that's what the restriction is imposed in 16.3. Then, which is the major point is 16.4 time limit. Most of us, due to COVID, any one or you must have received a notice for non-compliance of 16.4. There might be due to COVID, some financial issue. The returns were not filed within the due date which need to be filed. So 16.4, which prescribe the time limit for availment of ITC is 30th November or due date of filing of annual return. So you have to make sure you need, as we have come to the end of one financial year, audits are going on. You should make sure you do your reconciliation with GSTR 2A of your expenses incurred with GST. Do that reco, find out if any ITC has been missed out, because still you have a time till 30th November to avail the same. So do the reco, see, there may be a case of supplier non-compliance like we discussed in our previous slide. So if there is a case of non-compliance, make sure that your supplier do take care of all those provisions, and it is so that the question of reversal doesn't arise. See, even though we have been provided and that we can claim input tax credit, which has been reversed, but the problem is that interest cost you need to bear. And sometimes interest cost may be high due to high value of input tax credit. So make sure your suppliers, if any of them, if not reflecting or are not compliant, is taken care, so that before 30th November, if any changes or any ITC to be claimed or to be reversed can be done, so that you can avoid your interest cost. But when you are claiming ITC, then this time is at the time of original claim. But when you have reversed the ITC and you are reclaiming that ITC, this time limit will not apply. Like we discussed for payment within 180 days and payment of tax by the supplier. In that case, when you are reclaiming, this time limit will not be applicable. So even if you made your payment to your supplier after 3 years, this time limit of 16.4 will not come into picture. At the time of making payment to your supplier, you will be eligible for ITC, even though it is after 3 years from date of invoice.
Okay. Let's look at on the blocked input tax credit. I'm sure now you have all understood the conditions to avail the input tax credit is all clear, and by when everything. There are certain credits which are blocked. I'll quickly wrap it in 5 minutes because I want Ashika to spend more time on the important provisions. I'm sure by now everyone are following, not availing input tax credit, what you are seeing here, especially on the motor vehicles, food and beverages bills, and if it is relating to works contract, these credits are restricted and blocked. So when it comes to motor vehicle, you can allow the credit, utilize the credit. If it is any vehicle other than passenger vehicle, you can take the credit. Special purpose vehicles, you can take the credit. But if it's a passenger vehicle, you have to ensure the seating capacity is more than 30. If the seating capacity is less than 13, it is allowed only if someone who is in the same line of business, trading of the vehicles or using it for the training or using it for flying the passengers. In those cases, you are not allowed. Since the asset itself is not allowed, the incidental repairs and maintenance of those assets is also blocked. Employee related payment, the life insurance, food and outdoor catering, any specific beauty treatment, all not allowed. Club membership, health and fitness, not allowed. Travel benefits to employee, not allowed unless otherwise it's a business travel. Leave travel allowance, the relevant cost is not allowed. The exception to it, if it is any of this are incurred as a part of trading, is like you are an insurance company, you are doing a reinsurance, or you are a hotelier, you are buying supplies food and selling the food, or you are doing some event and as a part of the event you are giving them the food. So this is part and parcel of a composite supply. So if it is a composite supply of a bigger thing, then the credits are allowed. Then works contract, construction of building, even if that building used for renting it further, like a mall or anything, not allowed. Manufacturing building constructed, not allowed. So anything of that is not allowed. What is allowed in case of a construction services, repairs and maintenance incurred, debited to the P&L is allowed. The other credits not allowed is if it is on account of payment made by the supplier and it results under section 74, you are not allowed. If you are giving gifts, free gifts, samples, you are giving it off, those credits are not allowed. Recently, they have also introduced as a part of social responsibility, corporate social responsibility. If you're giving off any gifts or the material, the credit thereon is also not allowed. We have a circular which I would request everyone to take a look at it, which is circular 92/11/2019, which talked about buy one, get one free. When the additional product is given along with the first product, should I need to reverse the input tax credit because I just said that free gifts and samples not allowed? Here the answer is, since you are bundling it for one product to other, so the price of the second product is included in the first product, hence the ITC is allowed. Same applies to the warranty. So in case of a warranty replacement, some products are given, it is the price of this warranty is included in the original price, so the credit is allowed. You also have to ensure there are certain situations where if that giving away of something resulting into a deemed supply of which is schedule 1 transaction, you got to treat it as an outward tax and pay tax and not reverse the ITC. I have some of the advanced rulings that I have listed here, where a gold coin is given to the dealers for attaining some specific target. So you're giving it as a gift. So reverse the ITC. If you are providing trips, incentives to the dealers, we have specific cases. I would request you to go through these cases in terms of treatment. Alongside of these credits not being allowed, there is another restriction wherein if you have credits used exclusively for exempt supply or the credits not for business, your credit are not allowed. So if we have to segregate, the credits used for taxable or zero rated supply, ITC is fully available. If the credits are used for non-taxable or exempt supply, nil rated, the credits are not allowed. The ITC is not allowed. So this brings that what is exempt supply? Exempt supply, we all know, where the outward tax is not taxable. Apart from that, for the purpose of this chapter 5, the exempt supply would also include sale of land, transaction security. If my outward supplies, let's say I am a security service agency and I'm providing service where the recipient is paying tax and the reverse charge, even those have to be treated as exempt supply. So how do I do the treatment? This slide will give you the treatment. So what you are seeing in the green color, these are 100% eligible. If it is towards taxable, towards exports, eligible. What you are seeing in the red color, not eligible. If it is towards exempt or towards specifically not for business, not allowed. Now there could be a credits where which is common. Let's say I am providing an audit services to an agency where some of their outward tax is taxable under forward charge, some of their supplies are taxable under exempt, or taxable under reverse charge, some are exempt. So there could, my service is considering all the three. In such a scenario, in proportion to the turnover, the common credits to be allocated. So out of the total credits, you got to split the credits in this manner and avail the credits. Now there are new rules where your credits are going to get blocked. I want you to pay attention and take a look at these credits. These information, the credits are going to get blocked. Situation number 1, which is Rule 86A, wherein the government is now saying, if the under the proper officer under the authorization by the commissioner has a reason to believe, if they have a reason to believe, they are going to block your credit ledger. Like how there would be money in your credit ledger, but it would be frozen for utilization. Like how in the bank accounts, sometimes the account is frozen, which means your debit frozen. So you cannot draw it. Credits can come into it. So the reasons to believe here is if the credit of input tax has been availed, if they have availed the input tax credit on the strength of an invoice where the registered person itself is not there, supplier who is given, he's a fly-by-night operator, he is not there, or it is a bill trading, the material has not come, but just the bill has come, or the taxes have been charged, but they are clearly aware that these taxes were never paid to the government, or the person who is availing the input tax credit, he has availed and he is vanished, or he is not doing the business. So in these situations, if they have a reason to believe, they can apply a block on your credit ledger. This is one important provision. The second important provision is, even though the credit is available, some portion of the credit, the portal will say, I will not allow you to use. What is that? Let's say out of 100 rupees credit, the portal will say, 1 rupee I will restrict, I will only allow you to use 99%. What is this concept of 1 and 99? Government expects out of your sales that you are doing, at least 1% of the outward liability should be discharged by way of cash, while 99% of it can be utilized by credit. There are exceptions to it. The exceptions is, I have to see on a YTD basis, not month over month. Maybe in the current month, I have a substantial heavy purchases and I have a credit. So, but at least on a YTD basis, you have to do it. But the another exception that comes is assuming if you're in an inverted duty structure. So you are always making the procurements at 18% while the outwards liability is at 5%. Again, this is not applicable. This is also not applicable if you are making an income tax payment of more than 1 lakh rupees. Then even this provision would not be applicable. If you are a government sector, public sector undertaking, local authority, statutory body, again, this provision would not be applicable. This is something which one should be taking a look at it, saying that if you do not fit into this, the department can come back at a later point and saying that the credit that you have utilized will not good, and you have to make the payment in cash. And while you are making the payment in cash, you would also end up paying interest because this was otherwise payable at that point in time. This is another rule that has come. One other important rule, which you should again be very mindful, and sometime back someone also has put a question in the chat, is about Rule 88D, which talks about the input tax credit that I have availed beyond what I am eligible for. I am eligible for the credit that is visible in 2B. In a while, Ashika will explain us between 2A versus 2B and how do I avail the input tax credit. Now, if I am taking a credit beyond what is there in 2B, let's say my 2B is showing 100 rupees, while I have taken an input tax credit in 3B as 120 rupees. So 20 rupees is in 3B is higher than 2B. And this can happen in any of the tax periods. Now, government is going to run an algorithm at the back end, and basis certain percentage, they are going to issue an intimation to you. Please notice an intimation to you under Part A of DRC 01C. It's a new form which has been designed and this is active. Under Part A of DRC 01C, you will be asked that why you have availed so much, asking you to pay through DRC03. This is a tax payment challan other than 3B, voluntarily along with the interest since you have availed more input tax credit. You are expected to make a reply within 7 days. Your reply would be in part B of same DRC01C. So DRC01C has two parts. Part A is the department communicating to you. Part B is your communication back to the department. If you are not making any submission, if you are being silent, you will be automatically served with a notice SEN under section 73 saying that, okay, why it cannot become a recovery. So you also need to be on top of notices. In fact, in GST Zen, there is a notice management tracker which can automatically fetch you the notices that have been served upon you, both the show cause notices and the additional notices. Those who have not seen it, please log in and click on the notice management, where from the government portal automatically all the notices would be fetched and seen. Let's look at how my DRC01 part A would look like. This is, firstly, it says it's a system generated. So it's not been by the officer, of course, under the authorization by the officer, but it's a system generated, wherein it says it has noticed that the input tax credit availed by you in the return furnished in 3B is exceeding the amount of input tax credit available to you in accordance with the auto-generated 2B for the period so-and-so to so-and-so by so much rupees. So they are going to give you the value in 2B, value in 3B, and excess ITC available. If you carefully look at the form, you have IGST, CGST, SGST separately crafted. So if you have interchangeably using the credits, let's say I have 2B credits of IGST, while in 3B, I have reported 0 IGST, but I have reported a CGST, SGST. Again, you would be served with this notice. This is your part A. What comes to you is your reply, which is in part B. You have two options. Option 1, you say agree, hey, look, I made a mistake, and you agree and discharge that in DRC03. The reference, the acknowledgement reference number of that, mention that here and make a reply. This is option 1. If you say, no, I don't agree with this view, this is something wrong, you have to give a reply saying that why you are not agreeing with it, why it is wrong. You can say that I have availed an input tax credit of earlier periods now. Why did you not avail in the earlier periods? Could be the goods are coming in lots. So I have availed in a long, unless I received the last. Or the invoice has not come. In my books of accounts, I haven't accounted it, and I'm not sure whether it belongs to me or not. I have kept it on hold. So in the earlier period, my GSTR 2B, it was a higher value. I have not availed it, and which I am availing it now. You got to give a reason. Someone was asking about import of goods. You should say, this is an import of goods. It's not reflecting in 2B. Or import of service goods from SCZ, not reflecting in 2B. Or it could be excess reversal in earlier periods, which has to be reclaimed in the taxes. This is the current period. So you have reversed in excess in the previous tax period, which you are reclaiming it. Ashika mentioned about 180 days. If you are now making the payment to the supplier under Rule 37, you are now available to take the credit. This credit you can take even after 5 years. There is no restriction, but you need to have a reason. This is where we want to now capture an opening balance of how much you want to carry forward. And it is on account of Rule 37A, where you have not made the payment to the supplier. Sorry, supplier has not made payment to the government within September. You realized and you are reversing. Whenever the supplier files his GSTR 3B, that time you are eligible to make a claim of it. And if 3B itself was filed with incorrect details in the current tax period, and you will amend it in the next period, so saying that, okay, hey, I have availed 100 rupees extra, I will reverse it in the next tax period. You can mention that. If some of the reasons are not there, you want to reply in any other reason which you are not finding it, you should be able to give that. So this is an important change that you need to be aware of. These are the new rules. There's an important change about availment of reclaimed credit carry forward to the next periods. Let's look at that. Ashika, over to you. आज के आपकी आवाज नहीं आ रही है.
Before going into that, we should first understand how the data flow in GSTR 2B is. If your supplier has filed before 11, there is GSTR 1 filing due date, that then it will be appear in the month for which it relates. So June date of invoice, if June return has been filed before 11, it will be shown for the June. However, if they file belatedly, then it will be showing in the next month of GSTR 2B. It is important to understand now that there is no more of reconciliation matching of credit, which is applicable as of now. It is all GSTR 2B. The data which is auto-populated in GSTR 2B, in that data only you have to go ahead. You can't show any extra ITC. If you show ITC in excess of what is showing in GSTR 2B, you are sending a red flag to the department, because all those files with details, even if you will notice, whenever you show a higher amount than the GSTR 2B, same will be obviously, you will get one message that ITC claim is more than GSTR 2B. Similar message goes to department officers also. So you need to be careful. You keep your ITC or details which you are claiming in your GSTR 3B as per 2B. Now 2B is the only base. Don't go into reconciliation and all at the time of filing GSTR 2B. It's advisable to do after filing GSTR 3B. So how ITC need to be reported? ITC which is eligible, as we discussed the condition of section 16, and you are availing in this month, need to be reported in 4A file. ITC though relate to the, let's just take as the example, as we are standing in September, let us take the example of August. Now for August 23, suppose ITC of 100 rupees is reflecting over there. Out of 100, maybe 70 rupees you are availing in this month. So what you are availing in this month, 70 rupees, you will show in 4A5. Now the 30 rupees ITC, which is though auto-populated, you may not be availing due to any reason. Maybe payment not made to supplier, maybe a case of 3B non-filing, or it may be a case of you have not received the goods or services. In that case, we keep that part 30 rupees, which we will be availing in the subsequent month. So that 30 rupees, even though your 4A5 will be showing 100, 4B2, you have to show 30 rupees, because this is a temporary reversal we are talking. Means ITC which is eligible, but due to some conditions did not got fulfilled as per section 16, you are parking it to be availed in future. The ITC which is ineligible. Now suppose out of 30 rupees, 10 rupees is ineligible. Means may be covered under block credit 17.5 with sir discuss. So ineligible ITC you will show in 4B1. 4B1 is permanent reversal. Means you are saying you will not avail, it is an ineligible ITC. And 4B2 is a temporary reversal where you are saying it is eligible, but due to non-fulfillment of certain condition of section 16, it has been parked to avail in future. Now another is place of supply mismatch with location of supplier. This will be auto-populated in GSTR 3B based on GSTR 2B. So it will be shown in 4D2. It will not be forming part of 4A5. It will be directly shown under 4D2. Now, what are the situations there can be for temporary credit? It may, as we discussed, it may be a case you are parking that 20 rupees in 4B2 because you might not have received the goods or services, where it is pending for approval or rejection by purchase or management. Invoice not received by accounts department, or many multiple reason it could be. So 4A5, where you are availing the credit based on auto-populated GSTR 2B. 4B2, as we discussed, it is a temporary reversal to be claimed in future. Like we discussed certain example of Rule 37A and payment to supplier. Now, what ITC, like as we discussed, that subsequently you will be availing. So that 20 rupees which you parked in 4B2 in August, maybe on compliance, you might be availing that ITC in September. Now, when you are availing in September, September will be having its own credit. That will not include 20 rupees. So in 4A5, whatever the own credit is of September, in that you will add this 20 rupees. Plus, same also need to be reported in 4D1. 4D1 is only for the purpose of disclosures. It's just a method where the officer can reconcile and can know why there is a difference in ITC reflecting in GSTR 2B and what is reflecting in your GSTR 3B. So that 20 rupees you will add to 4A5 also. And for the purpose of disclosure, you will report in 4D1 also. This is one example. Like suppose 2B month, first month, it is showing 150, but your books is showing 0. And second month, 2B, there is nothing, but in your books, you have accounted 150. Means it's a case where you might have received the invoice belatedly. Now, in GSTR 3B, based on 2B, in first month only 150 will be reflecting in table 4A5. But you won't be availing this ITC. Reason being, you didn't receive the invoice. You haven't accounted in books. So you are temporarily parking this ITC to be availed in next month. So this we will show in 4B2 and net ITC availment for first month became 0. Coming to same thing, now month 2. Month 2 own credit is 0 as per 2B. But this 150 as you accounted and you are claiming, you are showing in 4A5 and same thing you are reporting in 4D1. And thereby your ITC availment is 150. Now why we discuss this 4A5, 4B2, 4D1? The reason being is the newly launched facility of electronic credit reversal and reclaim statement. Now, every SSC is required to furnish this detail, this balance, because most of us are following this pattern of temporary reversal under 4B2. But there may be a cases you may not be reporting it properly in 4D1. Now, how to go about it? Before calculating how it to be done, need to understand what the detail is government seeking over here. So over here, obviously, you will be giving your opening balance. After that, from September, it's going to take care, from August, it is going to take care itself. So it will automatically, based on the data you are going to furnish in GSTR 3B, it will be automatically adding what you are showing in 4B2, and it will be reducing what you are disclosing in 4D1, and accordingly this closing balance will carry forward like it do for electronic credit ledger. There will be opening balance if you haven't utilized full ITC. Whatever data you furnish in 3B in table 4 get credited into electronic credit, and when you use that ITC toward the payment of outward tax liability, that is shown by way of debit, and accordingly closing balance carry forward. Similarly, the concept they have come with temporary reversal and reclaimment of that ITC. So that is the 4B2 minus 4D1. So this data you have to furnish. Now, what are the things you have to furnish for it? The first, before digging into that you should know that last day to furnish that detail is 30th November 2023. So you have to give your opening balance detail by that date. Once that detail is furnished, they are providing with 3 opportunity to amend it if you have done any error. If while giving that data, if something has happened, you have 3 opportunity, but that for doing that also there is a time limit, that is 31st December. So once you have to furnish the data by 30th November, then the time limit to amendment is 31st December. Between those days only, you have to take care of all this working. What they are asking you to furnish in opening balance is what you furnish in 4B2 based on, because this new method of reporting has come from July 2022 return. So from July 22 return, whatever you furnish, what you have shown as a temporary reversal in 4B2 and what you have shown as a reclaim in 4D1, 4B2 add July 22 to July 23. You have to add all this who are monthly compliance, and who are of quarterly compliances, they have to add from again July, but for them it will not be July 23 it will be June 23 based on quarterly. So whatever you have disclosed in 4B2, that all need to be added. Whatever you disclose in 4D1, that need to be reduced. Net of that, you have to report in opening balance of it. Now the problem arises. There may be a case this reporting is not done properly, or it can be missed out. How to go about it? Because over here, basically department is going to check by adding all the 4B2 and minus 4D1 of your return furnished during this time period, whether the opening balance is matching or not. Further, the balance which you are going to show as an opening balance, it will be obviously there will be add less will be continuously going on. So you have to make sure it cannot go into negative. It goes into negative, it will be immediately a notice will be there. Now coming to the point, what you should do is you should fully work out your ITC during those periods. Whatever ITC you haven't availed, even though not reported, even though reclaimed but not reported, those all ITC you have to fully worked out and disclose your opening balance over there. That opening balance may not match with the return furnished. So be ready with your workings so that you can justify what you have shown in opening balance is correct and you have the proper working for the same. Sir, over to you.
Yeah. So given that we understood so many provisions that are there, and we need to understand that the reporting has to always be the correct reporting, right? We can't make a error in the reporting. And just to remind you, these timelines to report by 30th November, you got to make this opening balance reporting. You have 3 times option to correct it. And once the December is done, you cannot make any amendment. Now it's the responsibility on the taxpayer to do a proper reconciliation and avail the credit. I would request Bharti to actually do a demo as to how do I make this reconciliation and take a decision what credits I want to avail, what credits I want to park to the next period. Bharti, I would request you to do a demo of taking a sample purchase register and the sample balances appearing in 2B, and how do we classify and take a decision. Over to you, Bharti.
Thank you, sir.
After the Bharti session, we will take the Q&A.
Yeah, so I'll just share my screen and give you a brief overview. I hope my screen is visible to everyone.
Yes, yes.
Okay.
Visible.
So this is GST Zen. So you can use GST Zen for various purposes besides your reconciliation. You can use it for filing, for e-invoicing. We provide various reports and you can maintain all your GST numbers here. So right now, whatever GST numbers I've added to the account are present here, and we are displaying the filing status of the recent returns as well. So you can see all those that are in green have been filed on time. So anything that is in red, either the information is not present or they are not yet filed. Anything in orange is filed late. Okay, so moving on, let me show you the reconciliation of 2B. So here in the quick actions menu, you have this option, reconcile books versus government portal data. And we have 4 options available within this drop down. So you can compare your purchase register with 2A, with 2B, sales register with 1, or with e-invoices. So right now we are working with 2B. So I'll show you a reconciliation with 2B. But the process is exactly the same for other 3 as well. So I select the financial year. First step would be to log in and download the data. Okay, so I'm logged in and so I select the data and download. So if I have already downloaded 2B, There's no need to download again, as this is a static report. So if it is 2A, you can download multiple times, as it is dynamic and it changes constantly. 2B is static, so once it is downloaded, there's no need to download again. The next step is to upload the purchase register. So I'll just show you it in brief as well. I have some data prepared here. So I'm uploading this file, selecting the sheet. Next step would be for me to map my Excel file to these columns. So the software needs to know which information is coming from which column of the Excel. These are all the columns present in my Excel that I'm uploading, and it has been mapped. So if I re-upload with the same settings, same file again, same format, it will not require me to redo this mapping. So it is coming here. I just process file upload. Within seconds, all the invoices are getting uploaded. Here I get the summary of all the invoices, their totals, and if there are any errors. So if you get any errors, you can go back, correct your file and re-upload. If you just want to save the data besides the errors, you can just confirm and save entries, and later re-upload the data, correct entries where you have errors. So two steps are done: download of 2B, upload of purchase register. Next step is to run the matcher. This matcher will match the purchase invoices with the invoices of 2B. Okay. So once that is done, the last step is to download the reports. So we have provided monthly reports as well as yearly reports. So you can download for each individual month, or you can download the consolidated yearly report. Plus, there are various bases on which you can download. First would be your based on invoice date. So let's say you are downloading the report of August now. It will give you all the invoices which are dated August. Here is based on 3B claim period, essentially the record date when you are claiming that in 3B. So this is only for purchase register. If you want to go for 2B, based on 2B filing period, you go for the last report. So I'll just download the yearly report for now. You can go month by month if that is what you choose. Okay. This is a sample reconciliation report. First sheet over here is showing you the summary of the reconciliation. Second sheet is showing the summary of GSTR 2B as per how it would get auto populated in GSTR 3B, and this sheet is showing the reconciliation of the invoices. Here all the invoices which are highlighted in yellow are present only in books. So now, as per the new rule, since we are only considering 2B, so while filing GSTR 3B, while claiming ITC, these invoices should not be considered for claiming ITC. Next set of entries is highlighted in blue, which is present only in portal. So there could be various cases, various reasons for this. One is you have not accounted it in your books. Second could be there are differences in your data, which due to which it is not matching. Third reason is a wrong entry by the supplier. By mistake, somebody has given your GST number and they need to correct it later on. The last set of entries is the one which is matched. So those are highlighted in green here. So essentially, when you speak of claiming ITC, you should claim this as your ITC because it is matching with your books. Okay. So we have gone over here. Now, keeping track of what you are claiming and when. So reconciliation actions, we have given a set of columns which you can use to maintain records of what you are claiming and when you are claiming. You can also provide various reconciliation reports, record notes as well, where there are various reconciliation actions. So you can review it later. Wrong invoice by supplier. So as I said, somebody might have given your GST number by mistake, lost ITC. If it is email to supplier, this option can be made use of when the entry is only in your books. The supplier has not filed yet, or by mistake they have missed out providing your invoice in GSTR1. So you want to remind the supplier that you have not provided this invoice in GSTR1. So you please provide it. So you can trigger an email from the software itself by selecting this option. Last option is lock match. So you feel that everything about the invoice is correct and you want to claim the ITC. So you choose this option, lock match. This invoice is matched. Okay. Now ITC eligibility option is also there, whether it's eligible or ineligible. You can also select the reason for it being ineligible. You have T1, T2, T3, then you have T4, and you have C2. So you can select as per your workings, as per your data. Then you have ITC claim status. So if you're claiming right now, you mark it as accepted. Wrong entry by supplier, you can mark it as rejected. Something, so Venu sir also spoke about if you are not claiming it in the current month because you might not have received the full shipment, or you might not have consumed the whole batch of raw materials, so you are not claiming the ITC for that. So you can select pending accept. And then there is the option of accept and reverse. So you are reversing that whatever ITC has come in your 2B. So pending accept will go to your temporary reversal for that month. So you mark it as pending accept for your temporary reversal, and then at a later point of time you can reclaim it. Then you also provide the claim date. So you can filter here by, let's say, books and portal. So these are the entries that are matched. So I want to accept everything that is matched properly. I will just say accepted. Do a copy paste to all these entries. Similarly, I'll provide the claim date for it as well for that particular month that I'm claiming it in the same month. If it is pending, then it will show as pending right now. And when you are claiming it, you change that pending to accepted and provide the correct claim date. You can also provide the reconciliation notes as to why you are postponing these, claiming these invoices, or any other notes why you are rejecting or accept and reverse, anything. So you can provide it here. And at a later point of time, when you are reconciling or filing your GSTR 9B and you want to check all the data at once, you will be able to see what you have claimed in what month, what was pending, and how much you have claimed. So this will help you in getting an overview to make sure that you have records of what you are claiming. So we also provide options here, matching status. Even though invoices are matched, there might be some fields where it is not exactly matching. Let's say your date is not matching, or there is slight difference in your invoice number. Then there might be slight difference in invoice amounts also. So here you want to make sure that you accept the ITC when when you have no mismatches, or if there are any mismatches, those have been corrected. So all these options GST Zen report will provide to you. Plus, if there are any amendments, this report will also show you the amendments versus what was the original entry against it. And going back to this summary sheet, obviously you have everything that you provided. Here you have these options we are providing in the summary, and at a later point of time you can review this. So this is about the reconciliation report and how it will help you in filing your GSTR 3B and claiming your ITC. Okay. Besides this, we have other reports also. If you want to compare your GSTR 1 and 3B, so there are a lot of people who are getting notices now that their output, their liability in GSTR 1, what they have reported is not matching 3B. Similarly, what is there in 2A or 2B is not matching 3B. So if you want to get a comprehensive comparison report, you can go for this consolidated report, where we'll give you comparison between various filed returns. Plus, Venu sir had also spoken about notice management. So that also we are providing. Let me show you how that is done. So here notices are available. You have notices plus additional notices. So I go to this notices. Just a moment. It requires this application to log into the GST portal, essentially to connect GST Zen to the GST portal. Okay, I'll just log in here. These are all the notices that I have, and if I want to update, I click on sync. All the new, you can see that this notice has come and this is new. It was not there in my records until now, so I have just refreshed it. You can download the PDF. You can also mark any changes that you have, or if you want to save the responses that you provided to the GST portal, or if they were sent offline, you want to maintain records, you want to change the status of red, acknowledge, or work in progress. If you want to maintain uh, records of your notices, you can maintain it here. You can check the progress of all your notices at a glance. You can mark something as resolved. Okay, so now that I have marked it as resolved, I will not need to look at this notice again. The portal will not show you the status. So we are maintaining it here. Plus we are saving your responses also that you are providing to the portal. You can check the PDF of the notice here, and if you want help in replying to the government portal, you can contact our expert team through email or through WhatsApp. The expert team will provide you with assist you in replying to your notices. Similarly, we have additional notices as well, so you can download and see what additional notices you have here and take action accordingly. So this is it from my side. Venu sir, back to you. You're not audible, sir.
Yeah, so there's one question that came up, that when I run the matcher, will the earlier period data will also get considered? The answer is yes. The previous month unreconciled information will also get matched. However, the reconciliation will happen for the records in the current period. The previous year transactions will not get reconciled, for which you have to run the matcher again. Bharti, if you want to correct it, is this statement okay?
Yes, sir. Your statement is.
Yeah. Right. So if you have any questions, maybe you can unmute yourself and ask the questions now. I think most questions that were there were answered.
Very sir, good evening.
Yes, good evening.
Yeah, sir, we have blocked credits in our electronic credit ledger, and there is no any specific reason cited by the officer. There is a designation given it, and we do not find the appropriate reason behind that. So, what is to be done for this? I think your reply to send a grievance. Grievance means in what way we should send a grievance?
No. So sometimes, when someone makes an application for registration, it gets rejected and with no reason, or reason is inappropriate. In your case, the reason was not inappropriate, but notice is appearing. So there is an undersigned officer who has blocked the credit. You have to first approach the officer stating the reasons for it, and if you're not convinced with, you still have an option to go back to the commissioner, make an appeal saying that this is an erroneous blockage of the credit. In fact, while I'm talking on the blocking of the credit, even attaching of the bank accounts also sometimes very vehemently used and randomly used. The officers cannot just like that attach the credit ledger or attach the bank account, the thing. So they have to very wisely use this, though they have the powers. So in the current case, maybe we can catch up offline and see how the appeal can be filed for the same.
Yeah, thank you, sir.
Yeah.
Hello.
Yes, yes, sir.
Hello. Hi, sir.
Tell me.
Kumar.
Yeah.
See, I have a question here. Last year, 2B and books matched other than matchings with 2B. That is that opening balance supposed to be show in current month return filing as opening balance?
So you have 2B and
I have a 2B matched with books other than matchings, unmatched cases.
Okay.
Is that supposed to
you have line items in 2B which are not there in your purchase register?
Yes,
your
yes.
question is, should I show them as my opening balance?
In current month returns.
Yeah. So there could be two situations where it was not matching. I could have ignored them. Only if you have ignored them in the earlier period, you should show as opening balance. If you have reported them in the earlier period in 4A5 and reversed it, okay, and you do not have the thing, I would still say make a summation of all the things, whether you have availed credit and reversed or not at all availed credit and reversed, summate it. In fact, we also have prepared a checklist, which we will again circulate it when we are sending the presentation, is what type of credits I can carry forward. Rule 37, where I have not paid within 180 days, I have reversed the credits, temporary reversal. 37A, I have reversed because supplier has not made the payment. Available in 2B, but I have not accounted or not availed the credits. Or there are erroneously, I have excess reversed those credits and I have to avail it. So you got to carry forward whole list of credits that you want to avail. And they have taken the cutoff date, from after the August, with the 1st August, because they want to have this track. It is going to be system generated notices. Since there are some credits for 16/4 time limit is there till 30th November. So even that also needs to get exhausted. So when you reinstate this opening balance, you will automatically start offsetting it. Department will now start sending DRC01C Part A. If you are availing any credit more than whatever is appearing in 2B, they will be sending. So plain answer to your question, yes, you should bring forward them as the opening balance.
And one more thing, sir, you mentioned there in that 180 reversal that we can avail input up to 30th November. That cases only 180 days payment not done, reversal cases are all the invoices.
If you have reversed on account of non-payment to supplier within 180 days, there is no time bar.
Okay.
Even 5 years later, when you're making the payment, you can avail it. Just bring them as the opening balances.
So in that, can we consider that CDNR values? CDNR, I think now.
Yeah, revised value of the debit, if there is an upward, downward adjustment happen, you have to make those adjustments and take the revised values.
Okay, sir. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah.
Hello, sir.
Yes, sir.
Hello, sir. Good
Yes,
evening,
sir.
sir.
Good evening, sir.
Sir, what is the difference between GST Gen and GST Saral, sir?
There are two softwares, sir. So,
Is there any
GST
unique feature between them, sir?
one is a desktop application, one is a cloud application. So, maybe
Other than
I
nothing.
think you can just subscribe it online, take a demo, and you can see the comfort of multi-user, separate people logging it. So, two different softwares. That's all. Like if you're asking me difference between Oppo phone or iPhone, Max phone, there's each phone its own variant. That's it.
Thank you, sir.
Any other questions?
Hello.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, so this is Ravi here.
Yes, sir.
So I have a doubt on how to disclose the opening balance of this ITC.
Yeah.
So as per my understanding, what we have to do is we have to consolidate all the, whatever reversal what we have done in 4B2. Then in that subtracting the reversal what we reclaimed in 4D1. Right? That the balance.
And also unavailed credits. See, you couldn't.
Correct,
You wouldn't have even reported something in 4B2 in the past. You should include those also.
Oh, whatever I reported in 4B2, I mean reversed in 4B2, that also that I don't have to now report in opening balance.
You will have to report in opening balance. I'm saying you got to compile all of them and report as opening balance. It could be a situation where you wouldn't even have reported in 4A5 and 4B2 also.
Okay, so I can consolidate the GST at 2B of 22-23 financial year.
Correct.
And I can remove whatever ITC that I have claimed in 4A5.
Correct.
That is not yet been reclaimed in 4D1.
Correct.
That can be shown it as opening balance.
Opening one. Perfect.
Yeah, thank you, sir.
While you are doing this exercise, because the credit you claimed in 22-23, if some portion of the credit is akin to 2021, 21-22,
Right.
you got to make this the opening balance adjustment. So the credit availed in 3B for the financial year 22-23 has two parts. Something pertaining to 22-23, something pertaining to earlier period.
Correct.
Correct. Eliminate those earlier period and take pertaining to 22-23 and compare now with the 22-23 2B.
Okay.
Or the revised 2A. Okay. Make those things. And now include in the earlier periods, if you have made any reversal on account of Rule 37, include that. And if there are any erroneous reversal, excess reversal you have done by mistake, which you should put it back. Put that back as an opening balance.
Okay, sir. Okay, understood. Thank you.
Yeah. And friends, this is our page to reach us. In fact, there is always queries that come up. So we always have an endeavor to update the members. So we have a WhatsApp community. You can just scan the QR code and join the WhatsApp group. You can always reach to us if there is any subject related query. My email ID is there. You can write to us. And if you need to know more about the software, you can write to support. Our colleague Utkarsh or any of the team member will get in touch with you.
Hello.
Yes, sir.
So I have one more question.
Surely,
See,
surely.
Starting that Madam told that whatever the GSTR 3B not filed cases, we need to reverse that input. Right. Where we will get that status file, sir, now?
Yeah, I have given a link in the chat in the earlier period where you can click on that. You can copy paste the GST return, GST numbers of your vendors it will show their GSTR 3B filing status.
For the last year also, even current year also.
Yes, yes. You can just select full year or you can select any month. You will get. Once you log into the Zen, you can. There's a feature called check the filing status.
Okay, sir. Okay. Right.
Sir, one more thing, sir. Can we get the today's session PPT and the record?
Yeah, to the registered email ID, whichever is the ID in which you registered, you will get automatically a link of the session recording and the presentation copy.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah. Any other questions? Yeah, so make note of these contacts, and it's always our endeavor to update our customers, making sure they're GST compliant. Feel free to connect back if you have any doubts. On this note, we come to end of today's session. I thank Ashika for putting up this presentation, and special thanks to Bharti for doing the demo. And this is the front end of us. The full back end, the whole support was provided Utkarsh. Thank you, Utkarsh, for setting up the stage for us. Thank you, everyone.